The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC.
Everyone, get in here! Ready for action! I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is The Angry Chicken.
Well, welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of The Angry Chicken. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. She's Jocelyn Moffat, and freshly back from California, just to return shortly for BlizzCon, is Willie Dills Gregory.
Yeah, apparently I love California so much, I'm just going back and forth.
Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Well,
it would have made sense, honestly, if all things had been planned, in advance, like most people do, to have just made my trip extended and just stay and then, drive up or something and then fly home from Anaheim. But,
well,
that would be too easy.
If you drove there and then flew home...
Well, I'd rent a car or something, right?
Oh, okay. I thought you meant, take your car, and I was like... Then your car's in California.
My car's in Texas. That's where my car's in.
Yeah, well, good to have you back, man. And I'm excited to see you in, God, what is today, Wednesday? I will see you in a week after tomorrow. A week from tomorrow.
A week and a day.
Yep, a week and a day. We will all
They've already begun BlizzCon matches, by the way. It's happening right now.
It is. It is.
I know. I can't believe there's people in the chat room currently saying, why am I watching this and not play Hearthstone?
Yeah, and it's also having simultaneously as, other Blizzard esports things. So it's just like the real BlizzCon, you have to pick your battles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is the Patron call-in episode, and Skype's being dumb, so we have to do things a little differently. So if you're watching live right now, if you're in the sound of my voice and this is not on demand, don't call on the Skype because that's not working. Message me to let me know that you would like to be added, and then just be ready to be added. And yeah, thanks. So start letting me know. I already have a few people I know that have been trying to call in, so I'll start adding you first. But let's go ahead and see if the Skype gods are kind today by trying to add Mr. Rational Pie. It worked.
Yeah, looks like it did.
Dude,
Hooray.
You look like you are serene in your what is that? A blanket of clouds?
That's quite the backdrop.
Oh yeah, this is. I'm at my new place in Raleigh, and my girlfriend did some decorating and put up some clouds behind me. So
Nice.
this is basically my backdrop for now.
Very nice,
Very
dude.
nice.
Well, we talked about you on the Prime show yesterday because you have a post up on amove.tv right now all about the odds of who will potentially win the BlizzCon Hearthstone Championship this year. And you also came in second in the Angriest Chicken Open last month.
Yeah, I've been busy.
You have been. You've been active. You've been an active member of the community.
Well, it's been fun. I actually haven't called in since February, which is kind of weird. So
God, it has been a while, hasn't it?
yeah,
That means that he's just spent the last, 8 months thinking of a real good math question to stump us with.
No, I burned myself out on math over the weekend.
I can imagine there's so much work that went into that post. If you guys haven't read it over on amove.tv, holy crap, so much math.
Yeah, I had to.
I'm gonna check this out.
Oh my god, dude.
I had to
It's amazing.
download a software suite in order to be able to code all of this stuff, and I've actually been sort of reaping the benefits while watching the actual Play Hearthstone tournament, and I can actually go in and round by round just put in okay, who won with which deck, and then get up to the second stat updates for how likely each player is to win based off of their lineups, what bands they chose, and how many games they've already won in the match.
Wow.
Dizam.
So it's been pretty fun.
Have you been tweeting out these results or anything? Is there any way that people can see the up to the second stats?
I've been posting them in the TAC Discord.
Oh,
but
okay.
I could start tweeting them out, and then
I'm going to Discord right now. Like, I want to know. I want to know how much better BB Gun's stats are, and Sidonia won all 4 of his matches. So.
Oh yeah, Sidonia started off as like a 4% overdog, and by the last game, he was 90% likely to win that match. So
That's so cool.
It's ridiculous. Well, what did you? Did you just call to talk stats, or what's going on?
well, I've got 2 things. First, I got myself a drink. So I saw
That looks fun.
Yeah, I saw like the drinks yesterday from like that bartender that they have on Facebook. And so this is my version of the Dead Mind.
Okay. Now,
Nice.
dare I
The
ask
Defias
what's in it?
Deadman. So it's got lots of rum, a whole lot of rum. Also some.
Good
Is
start.
there a Midori or something in there?
There's some
guessing the
Midori.
green color. Okay.
Yep, there's Midori, pineapple juice, and blue curacao because it's got to be really colorful.
Sure.
And then hanging out in the bottom of there, I've actually got some Jello shots that I made,
God.
and also some grapes. So yeah, it's all
Nice.
chunky and weird and delicious.
Well, that sounds wonderful.
As a person who is put off by weird textures, that bothers me just listening to the ingredients.
You don't like the tea with the bubbles in it or whatever, with the little balls in it? That's not
Bubble
your thing.
tea?
Boba?
No, you know what I'm talking about.
Boba.
Garrett, do you have this in Florida? Is this a thing?
Boba?
Boba. Thank you.
Boba's okay. I don't mind it. I mean,
Okay. You're down with the boba.
yeah,
Okay.
because when I lived in LA, like when I first moved there, that was part of the whirlwind tour of all the LA things you have to do immediately. One was it's like, okay, get your in and
Get a
out,
boob job, number 1.
get your in and out, get your ramen. Yeah, I got a boob job,
Yeah.
and then I got boba.
Immediately into the boba.
Boba's okay. I don't mind it, but
Okay.
it's okay.
I would think though, like to me, like tapioca pudding. No, I don't want I don't want solids in my pudding, right?
Yeah. But what else do you
But
have
I
for
could
us,
go
Pi?
for a Jello shot in my drink. That sounds amazing. I'm gonna try that out for sure.
All right. So the actual question I had is because tournament season is in full swing right now. Everybody's thinking about competitive Hearthstone. I know I've been thinking about like what could I do to become competitive and maybe play some HCT next year. And the thing that came to mind is everybody talks about practice and all these players getting better and working really hard. And I'm wondering, what do you think good techniques are for practicing to become a better player? Do you just go on ladder and grind hundreds of games to get used to your decks, or is there some other way to get more focused practice time in and become a better player?
I think trying to find like practice partners is probably key, because then that gives you the ability not only just to, get a bunch of games in, which you can get on ladder, but you can actually practice your specific matchups and, how you fare and playing against what's popular, and what, if you're looking at tournament play specifically, then, what you might actually face in a tournament is going to be way different than ladder. So just having that some 1 or 2 other people to get your practice time in with, I think is really important.
Yeah, I was gonna say if your goal is tournaments, that's what I would do as well. Get a good partner who is high level, and practice your matchups. But if say your goal is to qualify through laddering, then you should just hit the ladder.
I think Dills is talking, but we can't hear him.
Oh, sorry. In this specific tournament, you know exactly what the other decks are, right? So what you would do for, let's say you're practicing for BlizzCon, you would get somebody to play the opponent's decks that are in your group, and you would play against them with your decks, and you would play like those matchups, 50 times each. So that way you have because certain matchups are going to be bad no matter what, right? So the goal isn't really to then learn how to crush the matchup. The goal is to make it so that the matchup is, let's say, rather than 60-40, get it to like 55-45, right? And so just try to shore up the bad matchups as best you can by mulliganing properly and like understanding your win conditions. So like some people brought Freeze Mage, right, to try to beat Shaman. So you try to then, when you do have that matchup where you're playing the Shaman and they're playing the Freeze Mage, understand how it is that you actually go about beating the Freeze Mage, and understand like where is it that I maybe take a chance? Do I throw away certain cards in the mulligan, or do I keep them? And just try to make that matchup as good as it can be, because in the end, something like BlizzCon, everyone's practiced enough to understand the proper move in most cases, but the difference is going to be understanding the macro version of that, which is how to then play for 5 turns from now, how to play for 4 turns from now, to better give yourself like that little tiny bit, an uptick in percentage points that gives you, more of a chance to it. Because someone's going to win, I don't think, based on the fact that they're just head and shoulders above everybody else in the tournament. Like Tice is a
game
favorite.
of inches.
Yeah, Tice is a favorite, but very easily Tice, like even though he's a favorite, I would say he's like 30% to win, right, at the most. So that means
9.95. My stats.
Okay,
say.
sure, there you go. See, there you go.
We have
Yeah.
literal numbers right now.
I'm giving a huge edge. I'm like 30% is way out there, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, even a favorite is still going to lose this tournament 91% of the time, right? So it's just about making sure that you gave yourself the best chance, and that's all you can really do in Hearthstone. Like MVP Black and Heroes, you go out there and be like, yeah, if we just draft properly and play good, we'll crush everybody because we're better. But in Hearthstone, it doesn't work that way. It's all about, it's like trying to win a poker tournament, You just make the best move you can in every situation based on the information you have. So use all the information that you have, which is all of the deck lists, and run those matchups tons and tons of times. And do it in a way that like targets who you're going to play, right? Because they start in a group, and then they move out, and then you should have a sense of who you might end up going against. So
yeah, and I mean, these players even know who their first match is going to be against, so they can say, okay, I really need to practice this match because there's a 100% chance that I'm facing this guy in the tournament.
Yeah,
exactly. That's the most important one of all because it's the only one is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And everybody else kind of has all the other stuff you can do at this point has all been done, right? So your tech choices, your deck choices, all that has already happened. You got some really interesting things like Amnesiac is playing Kobold Geomancers in his Shaman because he's trying to beat other Shaman, right? So the 2/2 is more important than the 1/1 with the cycle. Like that, all that stuff has already been done. So now it's a matter of taking the existing decks that and just crunching those numbers as close as you can to make the matchups as favorable for you. But it's, it's a crapshoot, man. Everyone's picking their guy. I know Tice is definitely a favorite. I picked Amnesiac.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I picked Amnesiac just because I feel like I don't know. He's like that kid who just annoyingly crushes everybody in Hearthstone.
Oh, yeah. He was excellent in that tournament that he played in. Like, when he got to the HCT, like, he just walked in, just crapped all over everybody, and then went straight to the finals. So
yeah. And I think like even care. He's like, I just got homework to do, so I'm just trying to get home fast. It's like.
And didn't he even show up in like another prelim and then just like wreck a few people and then dropped out to go to a wedding or something?
Yeah, I think it was his sister's graduation or something.
Oh,
but yeah.
That's
Some family thing took him out of the tournament.
Yeah.
I didn't go with I went with Tice, but I didn't go with Amnesiac just because I haven't heard much from him lately, and so that worried me a little bit. Because he is so young, and I'm like, what if he decided he liked soccer and hasn't been playing so much Hearthstone? So I was just like,
I think he's playing a lot, just not a lot of tournaments, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, he signed to a new Hearthstone team because he was Archon, and Archon is no more.
Yeah.
But he just kind of dropped out of the tournament scene for a while because he'd already secured his BlizzCon spot, which is a kind of a weird thing. Then I would like to see maybe change for next season. But he'd already secured BlizzCon, and he had school. And so he actually came out and said, I'm concentrating on school to make sure that I'm as good of a student as I can be. And I'll be ready for BlizzCon, but you won't see me at like all the weekend invitationals and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's ready.
I know. I feel like
that
he might be a little out of
that could be out of
practice
the
or something. Like, decided
I'm just
Tice was
surprised
better.
to see that Amnesiac didn't like take the opportunity to really like blitz his stream. Try to get lots of people on there, because from what I can tell, that seems to be the most profitable way to be a Hearthstone pro, is to have a stream that has a lot of viewers. And if you're the first guy to get into BlizzCon, in the North Americas region, you could easily turn that into a lot of viewers and a lot of subscribers. And
I think though, it's probably pressure from his parents to not be spending all of his time doing Hearthstone stuff. Also, he's what, 15, 16?
Yeah, he's 15 or 16.
He doesn't need to make any money yet.
I feel like he was 15 when he qualified, but that was back in February or March. So
Yeah,
he could have had a
just
birthday
means-
between now and then.
I think it just comes
It just
down to
means everything you get is spending money.
That's true. It's all for college, right?
That's a
Yeah.
very
It's
good
all
point.
going into the till. Okay, so Pi, so you said Tice is the statistical favorite. Who's like the dark horse? Who's the guy that no one's picking that you think would be the guy that has like the next best chance, but not from the the spotlight is not on this person.
Well, I would definitely say Chonsu, because if you take the Gosu Gamers ratings out of account in my stats, Chonsu is the one who has the best lineup going into the tournament. He is an Asian player, so he doesn't get as much spotlight. His Gosu Gamers rating is underrated by quite a lot, because if you haven't looked into the way that Gosu Gamers does things, they have a conservative estimate. So they take an estimate of the player's rating based off of their matches that they've played, and then if they haven't played a lot of matches, they get a penalty based off of how few games they've played. And Chonsu's penalty is about 35%. So if you take that penalty out of account, he's actually as good of a player as Tice. It's just that they haven't had enough games to measure him.
Yeah.
So he's potentially as good of a player as Tice. He has a better lineup going into this tournament, and he's in a much weaker group because, well, I guess it's between the two of them. Group A and Group B are both very strong, but Group A is the stronger of the two. So I would say that
he would be like the Vegas odds betting. Like you bet on him because nobody's betting on him, right? And he has a really good chance to win. Like Tice would be the guy who's going to pay you like 1.5 to 1, and then so if he wins, it's like, well, we didn't even win that much. But yeah, that's cool. See, this is the kind of stuff that I'm really interested in is because you can look at all these players and say they're all pretty much equally as skilled as far as each turn of Hearthstone goes. But yeah, you got to look at the decks they bring and the tech choices that they've made to really kind of start picking out favorites.
Yeah.
I mean, if all we knew was just that there were 16 players going into the tournament, each one would have a 6% chance to win.
Sure.
And so that means that like Tice is 50% better than that, and Breath, who's the worst, is 50% worse than that. So it's all really, really close. I mean, there's no like standout favorite in this tournament.
Yeah, and that's gonna happen with a game like Hearthstone.
Oh yeah.
Well, Pint, thank you so much for calling in, and I want to remind our listeners again to go to amove.tv right now and look up Playing the Odds for BlizzCon 2016, which is your article with tons of stats if you want to dive deep into everything Pi talked about here. But thanks for calling in, man. Enjoy your dead mind.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to keep up on the stats going through the Play Hearthstone tournament, I guess I'll start posting them over on my Twitter account, which is twitter.com/therationalpi.
Awesome. Definitely go do that, folks. Thanks again, Pi.
I think I'm already following you, but I'm going to make sure.
I'm going to double check that I've
Yeah, because I want to know. I want all this up-to-the-minute stat info.
Awesome.
All right.
Have a good
Later,
one, dude.
guys.
Did it.
Awesome. All right. Who's next? Let's see if Lance is still hanging around. And this is the interesting part of having to add them. We have to sit in anticipation of them picking up.
I was not following him. All right.
I wasn't either.
Crisis averted.
Mistakes were made.
Yeah.
Well, Lance, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's going
welcome.
all right. How are you?
Oh, it's going good, man. Yeah, Skype's bugging out on me as well. Never mind.
Well, we
Damn
can
Skype.
hear you all right.
Yeah. No, that's fine. So, expansion hype and everything happening. I'm actually quite hesitant to hype myself up after Karazhan, because Karazhan wasn't it wasn't LOE, it wasn't Nax, it was just okay. Question for you guys. With the next expansion coming out, the Gadgetzan expansion, what's going to disappoint you? What coming out of this expansion would disappoint you?
Well, what would disappoint me, honestly, is just like if Malagos, Druid, and Shaman are still the two best decks, right? Honestly, like as long as we get a significant meta shift, I don't even care necessarily if, say, Priest stays bad. I just care if there's not enough of a shakeup, right? Like I'm not looking for one specific class to suddenly become amazing. I'm just looking for things to shift in a way like they did with League of Explorers, where we saw a brand new archetype, right? Like the Reno Jackson deck was a thing that could never have existed. I just want more stuff like that, where we come out of it and we go, okay, we got to figure out all this new crazy stuff, and not just okay, how do I shoehorn this into my Malagos Druid? That's what I don't want to see.
For me, I think it's going to be probably release date. I'll be really disappointed if we're looking at like 6 to 8 weeks after BlizzCon.
February,
Well, yeah, exactly. If they're like, something like, Christmas 2016, I'm going to be like, screw you, 2016.
Yeah, it's coming out on New Year's Eve, so it's technically 2016.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I
if
don't.
If that happens, I'll be really disappointed.
Yeah, I find that unlikely. But
Well,
Yeah, me too. I think it's going to
so,
come
but-
out in November. I think whatever they
You think so,
whatever they announced, I
November?
think it'll be a few weeks after BlizzCon. It's actually out.
yeah.
Similar to League of Explorers.
I don't think November. I think that because it's an expansion and the drip feed that they usually do, I'm aiming more for December actually. November, if it does come out November, I'll be extremely happy. But I mean, I'm not that optimistic about it. I'm already not optimistic about the expansion itself.
A drip
So-
feed in general, I think, will disappoint me.
So, like, exactly what you just said, like, right, Dils, with a shake-up. I have another question then, a follow-up question. Do you guys feel that the Patron Warsong meta was better than our current meta?
I liked the fact that I liked what the Patron deck did, which was keep some other decks in check a little bit. It really did force you to respect this deck that existed, that was a big combo, and I liked that there was a combo deck that could kind of, because right now what we see, and a lot of people make fun of it, is we see Tempo Stone, right? Where basically every deck is essentially a tempo deck, and we're not seeing, like, even the Malagos Druid, which is, you could say, is a combo deck because it plays Malagos and then bursts you down with spells. It still also wins a lot of time without doing that by just tempoing really well, right?
Just ramping well
Yeah,
as well.
so, I did really enjoy the fact that there was a deck out there that forced people to respect the combo, right? And, I want them to always keep that in mind, that combo decks are important to a game like Hearthstone, rather than just kind of throw them all under the bus. But, I understand charging a bunch of creatures at my face for 60 damage is probably negative, but charging for 27 or 28 is pretty good. So, make sure that never goes away, and we'll be okay. Make sure those decks are strong.
Yeah, and I think the other thing about the patron meta is that, at least that deck was difficult to play. Like, Shaman is not that difficult to play.
It's not necessarily the Patron deck that I'm speaking about, because remember that time all of us were running Shredders and Dr. Booms and stuff. It was an entirely different meta. Things could swing both ways because lots of people were just playing RNG-based cards. So what I'm basically getting at is, was losing or winning that way better or worse than what we're experiencing now?
I personally
I
like
saying.
I like
Snowball.
I like the meta now better than pre BlizzCon last year because of the reasons you just brought up, Lance. I mean, if we're talking Patron specifically, in the pantheon of combo decks that ruined my day, Patron was, I think, the least offender because it was so difficult to play, and you came up against it rarely. You would, if you play 10 games a day, you would definitely see it, but it wasn't like you were seeing in 8 out of 10 games. But in terms of
where in the ladder you were, though, too.
That too,
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. If you were up on in the upper echelons, you're going to see it a lot more.
Yeah.
But in terms of the overall ladder meta right now, I'm hard pressed to think of a time where I was happier with the meta. I still see, in the high teens and the low single digits, a good variety of classes and class archetypes. And all in all, am I sick of Shaman? Yes. Am I also part of the problem in playing a lot of Shaman? Yes. But overall, I think this is a pretty healthy meta.
I feel like, though, the issue is just that all of those classes and all those archetypes, most of them are playing tempo-based versions of their class, right? And the classes that are struggling are the ones that struggle with tempo in general, right? So Priest struggles because Priest doesn't get on the board and stay on the board, right? And the other classes kind of can. Like Rogue struggles right now because Rogue can't really do the same thing. Rogue can't get on the board and stay on the board in the same way. Yes, we do have a lot of different decks out there, but most of them are kind of homogenized to a certain extent. And I think the healthier meta is when you can see a
Yeah,
priest and then
variety.
go, oh, this could be combo, or this could be tempo, or this could be control, right? And you don't know until you start playing a few turns. That's the healthiest,
exactly.
in my mind anyway. If it's ever possible that could exist, that's what I would.
But we get that, we get a sampler of that, right? You get a hunter right now, you're not 100% sure it's secret hunter, it might be a face hunter, it might be a mid-range hunter. You get a warrior, you're not 100% sure it's control, it might be Cthulhu. Obviously it's not perfect, but there is enough diversity right now that my point, I'm just coming back to my point where at the moment I think it's my favorite meta. Is it perfect? No. Can it be better? Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think I don't feel that bad about Shaman, and I play the game. I am very competitive about the game, but I still play the game a lot for fun. And I don't know if you guys saw some threads on Reddit about how the new quests that they brought out are like actually making casual a bit more fun at the moment, because you're inspired to like build. If you get like, for example, play priest cards and play like divine shield cards, or play priest cards and play Murloc cards, just making some fun decks and going in there. So it feels good. I hope that those were speaking about the heroic brawl. I really hope that the heroic brawl brings that same kind of feels back to the game. Just you're not caring about climbing up the ladder or going 12 wins. There's something else to care about within the game.
Yeah, it's giving some, I think, much needed diversity, or it's rewarding you for playing the game a different way. And
instead of just for winning, yeah.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah.
Well, Lance, thank you
Really
for calling
like
in.
that as well.
We're getting a long line behind you, so I'm gonna try and move through a little faster. But thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, thanks for the
Cool,
questions, man. Good stuff.
All right, let's try and get Jordan in here. So, are you happy about the new quest stills? I know you've been championing just more fun or more incentive to play fun decks for a long time, and you went around yesterday.
I played a bunch in the airport yesterday because I was stuck there all day, and it was really fun playing through all the quests on all my accounts and building, enraged decks and bubble decks and all that kind of stuff. So it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the show, man.
All right. Perfect. Yeah, sorry about that. Have just got to get outside of the workplace.
It's quite all right.
So they don't stare at me. All right. Hello. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing well.
Wonderful.
What did you want to talk about,
All
Jordan?
right. Well, so I have two quick things. One, yesterday you guys were discussing the idea of switching up the ladder by doing the whole StarCraft system of bronze, silver, gold, blah, blah, blah. Just want to first say I think that's a mistake, not because I don't think that's a good idea, but because clearly the levels should be common, rare, epic, and of course legendary. And it could solve an issue of the fact that everyone sort of is not personalized whatsoever in any way. Well, if you get into a certain bracket, what if for your portrait, you could select some card from that rarity to be your logo or whatever.
That's
That'd be
really
super cool.
flippin' cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and so I don't know how to exactly do that, but I mean, again, that's not our problem. They're just supposed to develop it because we want it.
That's very much, I think there's been the call for that multiple times through Hearthstone's lifespan so far, is some sort of a customizable avatar, more along the lines of like Overwatch and Heroes, where you can pick a specific image to represent yourself as opposed to just, your position on the ladder. So I think that would be super cool. I don't even know what card I would pick, but yeah, it would, especially if you could pick like all the wild cards and stuff too, or even.
Well, I would reach Legend and pick Leroy.
Would you?
Oh, yeah.
I think if they considered tokens too, I would totally be a boombot.
Oh wow.
That'd be good. I personally probably would go with some form of priest card. That's my main class because I'm poor at life decisions. And which leads me to the next topic. You guys have discussed at whatever, some Latin word, that a lot of problem with priest is it doesn't feel like they have any sort of identity. It used to be, oh well, they copy the opponent, but rogue does that better. They heal, but paladin does that better. They used to just have card advantage, but mage with babbling books and Kabbalist tomes and flaming torches, they can out-card value you as well. The one thing Priest does still have that no one else has, and it's a mechanic they haven't really used too much of, is the idea if Priest gets to see what's in the opponent's deck with things like Thought Steal, Mind Vision, the Shifting Shade, and sometimes getting those Thought Steals late game, the more valuable portion of those cards isn't so much having the cards, but knowing what the opponent does not yet have. And so I was thinking, what if they sort of doubled down on this idea of Priests using their insight to gain an advantage? Some card like, I don't know, 2 or 3 mana minion with stats that are, defensible, something Priest can actually use to fight for the board, but the effect is something like discover the next 3 cards in your opponent's deck, select one, and that one gets shuffled back into their deck. So you're not stealing it, you're not removing it. All you're doing is trying to remove that card down in priority, essentially, because you have now just determined what the next 2 cards are. I like this idea just because there's a chance of, the next 2 cards the opponent gets, sort of like Ivory Knight, it gives him information back. He sees, hey, I get this card on, let's say it's Shaman. They get a 4 mana 7/7 on turn 4. They're all excited, they're going to play it, but then they're like, wait a minute, the Priest let me have this card. Do I play it and pray he doesn't have a Shadow or Death, or is it just because whatever else he was putting up against was even worse? And so, I don't know, something like that.
No, that's interesting. I do like that idea because you are right that a lot of the things that Priest came in and it was like, oh, they steal things from your board, they steal things from your deck, they do all that. And then, like Rogue now has kind of taken that as well, and that is a little annoying. Like, what does Priest really do better than anybody else? I would love to see maybe Priest even have, I don't know if you play Magic, but there's a card in Magic called Thought Seize, where you literally look at the other guy's hand and then take a card out of it.
That was actually a suggested card I saw someone make in their custom cards, was the Tyrande as a legendary, and her ability was simply it reveals the opponent's hand. Yeah.
But you take it even further by you reveal their hand and then you steal a card from them, right? Like it is a really interesting concept that does exist in Magic. I feel like one of the reasons we don't see it in Hearthstone, and one of the same reason that Mind Control was actually fine at 8 mana but just felt really bad. They are very concerned with making sure that no matter what they do, they don't make people feel bad when plays happen.
If I remember, something in the beta, didn't Thought Steal used to do that? Didn't it used to take the card? Or
I think originally before not in the beta,
discard?
It was in like the alpha, like where it would actually not make a copy, it would actually steal the card out of your deck.
Yeah,
that's sort of the reason I think, because they, we've heard them say, Entomb's not fun, to which my response is always, well, then why'd you print the darn card? But
I think it's a very fun card though, because it makes it makes an interesting strategy, right? Like which card, when you realize you're up against, like, say, a N'Zoth deck, now you realize, okay, I need to entomb his two best Death Rattle cards, but I also may need to just entomb something else because I'm trying not to die. So it's like it creates this strategy where you're trying to think ahead, like, okay, get the Tyrion or the Sylvanas, but also don't die. Like maybe I just keep using it, right? So
it's like really whenever I run against N'Zoth Paladins, I remember I would always just wait them out, steal Karen or Sylvanas and Tyrion, and I win. And good Paladins actually realized, well, if I just create 1/1s, they just eventually die. I don't need.
You never even play those cards because they're gonna get taken away.
So,
I really
That's why I like the idea of instead see the next 3 cards and put it back in their deck. Because if Blizzard's adamant about this whole stealing the cards isn't fun, which again, why'd you put it in the game? Then giving Priest some way where they still can have the fun of interacting with their opponent's deck, something no one else really can do, but do it in a way that instead of makes it so that, hey, this isn't fun, but instead just says, hey, we're going to put this card later in your deck so that you're trying to make up for the fact that Priest has poor early game curve with the fact that they can try and cause their opponent's curve issues. I think that's a little more fun.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those cards that gives information back.
Yeah, which was going to be my point, is that would be a ridiculously powerful card. I don't know if you could actually make that a 2-mana card, just because you get so much information and the ability to actually mess with your opponent, plus a body on board, as you suggested. A minion would be tied to this because that's one of Priest's.
But if it's a bad
maybe
minion, though, it's fine, because if you think about
Just
what
a
Priest does
2/2
now,
on 2.
they play bad minions, right? Like they play bad minions. Think about a card that's considered pretty good, Shifting Shade. It's a 4/3 that plays, you definitely gain a card essentially, but you also lose out on tempo, and a lot of times like the tempo loss without the things like the catch-up mechanics like Light Bomb means that you just go down this path of, I've got a cool, I've done some tricky cool stuff, but I'm also just dying, right? Like I'm dying to what's on board, and that's really what Priest has.
That's what Priest does best.
Yeah, Priest does best. Like, I die with 8 cards in hand, right? It's great. But if you could stop there, a card like that could maybe take a combo piece, shove it down the deck. A card like that could maybe take a minion that you wouldn't be able to deal with, shove it down the deck until you can draw into answers. But the minion itself would probably be fairly weak, to be honest. Like if there was a card that did that, so it wouldn't be, I don't think, be OP. But it would be a card that would be really good in the hands of a good player.
Yeah, I guess if you're shuffling it back into the deck too, there's always a chance that you could just have terrible luck and they draw it anyway. Yeah. Which then, it could also really mess with them, because like you mentioned, if they draw then the 4-mana 7/7, like why did the Priest let me have this? Maybe that is the card that they threw down in the bottom of your deck, but it just got shuffled to the top.
Well, what Jordan was saying is that you'd be guaranteed that the 2 you picked would be on the top. So the worst case scenario, it's the 3rd draw after you cast that minion or that spell.
Well, and the reason I think it could be fair is because Priest's removal by its nature is reactionary. And so to make up for some of that reactionary ability, they need some way to be able to know what's coming. Because no class suffers more from, like, say, if someone has a combo deck than Priest, because Priest has all the late game tools of a control warrior without the ability to go over 30 health. And so being able to try and react to what you're seeing, to be able to delay stuff, is, I think, Priests, if they want to keep this sort of flavor and they don't just do another Dragon Priest where they just give Priest tempo cards and say play tempo, even though that's not why you play Priest. I think that's the only way to sort of preserve the flavor, is to find a way to give some asymmetric information to Priest.
No, I agree. No, I think it's a really cool idea, man. I dig it. I hope that they kind of, because they've talked in the past that they like that Priest is kind of a tricky class, right? Priest is a class that does a lot of cool, interesting stuff. And so when you play it, and if you're good at it, you feel like you're doing something that not everyone else can do, right? And it makes you feel cool and special to be able to be good at a class like Priest. And they should probably keep that flavor, because I think it's pretty cool. It's nice.
Well, thanks for...
And that's the biggest issue, is Priest just doesn't have... And when Priest does its tricky stuff, it doesn't also get to put a minion. You look at a lot of the reason powerful cards are in the game, it's because it puts a minion on board and does something.
Yeah.
And Priest is very low on those minions.
Yeah. Well, thank you for calling in, Jordan. That
thanks a lot.
That might be my favorite suggestion made from a listener to date. I really like that idea of a card. Now let's see if we can get Matthew in here. And his screaming cat.
Even reordering their deck and things like because there's cards like Divining Top in Magic, right, where you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and then put them back in any order. That kind of stuff is really awesome, actually, and creates some cool play. So I'd love to see that kind of stuff.
Welcome to the show, Matthew.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
I am just entranced by your cat, who was entranced with something on your ceiling right now.
Oh, I'm entranced by your studio. You've got soundproofing all over the place. Where are you right now?
Yeah, no, I'm in my apartment. I do some podcasting myself.
Nice.
So I figured this time I actually wasn't at an office on an iPhone calling in. I've called in once before, and I thought I'd use my actual equipment.
Frickin' awesome.
Amazing. Let me show you the extent of my soundproofing. Here you go. So behind my computer is one single thing of foam. Perfect. So that my voice goes into it and doesn't bounce back off the wall. And that's it.
I love it. Very nice. How you guys doing?
You're doing well, man. What you want to talk about?
Well, I have a silly question and a real question, but I want to start with my real one, and then if there's time, we'll go on.
All right.
I've been trying to, obviously, as many people that listen to your show, trying to climb ladder, on and off, try hard, yada, yada. And I am starting to. I keep track of all my scores. I do, deck tracker, all that jazz. But like the idea that I feel like I'm failing at is knowing when to tech stuff in, and I keep track of my like wins, losses, but also like why did I lose? Did I not have enough board clear, yada, that sort of stuff. So like I just was wondering, when do you guys, like, out of how many games have you, depending on where you are in the ladder, I guess, when do you guys, after so many losses, be like, okay, now's the time to switch up like some 2 or 3 cards in the deck? Like, at what point is the right point?
Well, so my kind of rule of thumb is when I'm going to do a try-hard 15-game session, I'm going to play the 15 games with the deck untouched, right?
Okay.
Because I want to know at the end of the session how good that version of the deck really was, and I need at least some sort of decent amount of games to give me a good jumping off point, right? So then I can like decide the next day maybe I need to make a tech change. So recently I could tell you when I played 15 games with Shaman, and I was like, okay, mid-range Shaman, it's the best deck, right? I played against 5 or 6 other Shaman, and I went 8-7 on the day, and the Shaman matchup was clearly the most important one because I played against it so much. So the next day, I did 15 more games, but I teched in a single Argent Horse Rider, right, to be able to do like I took out the 4-mana 7/7 because oftentimes it would get hexed. They say 4 mana, it's 6 mana. You get overloaded for 2.
Yeah.
So I spent 6 mana on it. They spent 3 mana to deal with it. They were suddenly ahead 3 mana, right? And so I decided instead of doing that and going down that road where that card was good against other stuff, I'm going to specifically put in a Horse Rider. And then the next day I went like 10-5 or something like that, right? And I won the Shaman matchup a lot more. So I think you really don't do it just because you're in the middle of a losing streak. Like, do it after a session is completed, because then you have more information to jump in the next day and really look at what decks you were playing against and what decks you were struggling against more than I lost 5 games in a row, switch something, right? Because sometimes you can knee-jerk and make a mistake.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I've been trying to follow your 15 a day rule, so I was wondering if, like, yeah, so that's good to know. Like, pretty much almost on a daily, you're saying, like, just depending on the way it goes.
Yeah.
Not just
But make sure you play a full 15 session with the deck as is, so you really understand whether it's good or bad. And then like the other decision to make the next day is maybe this deck isn't working for me. I need to switch it up completely, right? But the most important thing is to understand what you're playing against the most, and also like if I'm playing against Shaman the most, but I'm crushing them, then don't change a thing, right?
Right.
But if I'm playing against Shaman the most and I'm crushing them, but I'm losing every single game to Warrior, and I saw Warrior say 4 times, maybe I need to make 1 tech so that I don't weaken my Shaman matchup, but I strengthen that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to really understand what you're teching for rather than, oh, I should just put Harrison in. Like, why? You know what I mean? Were you losing to Warrior? Because, then definitely do that. But if you were fine against Warrior, then maybe it's Druid that you have a problem with. Maybe you need something different. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've started taking notes, Dills, and as someone who logs a lot more games than I do regularly, how important do you think it is to make note of things like bad starting hand and stuff like that? Because I've been trying to.
Like give those like kind of X those losses off the list.
Yeah, because I've been making notes of when I have what I would consider a bad starting hand or kind of mediocre. It's like, oh well, I got Totem Golem, but I got nothing else.
Sure. I think the important thing there, though, is to understand when you got a bad starting hand, did you make a mistake on the mulligan, or did you do all of that correctly and just kind of got crap luck for a game?
Yeah.
Right?
And the other thing,
there are times you can improve just your mulligan strategy, and then more often than not get a good hand, right? So.
Mm-hmm. The only time that I ever cross a loss kind of off my list when I'm looking at deck tech is if I know I made a mistake. So those are the ones that I actually flag and say like, okay, I know I screwed up here. I should have done this instead of this. Like that was a poor choice on my part. That was not the fault of the deck. And then so then I can look at the matchups a little bit more and say like, okay, my deck is good or bad, and these losses are my fault, not the deck's fault. So like being able to make that distinction, is I think really important. So that's what I try to pay attention to. Is I'm like, okay, I lost the game from turn 5 on because on turn 4 I really screwed up and I didn't play properly.
Yeah.
You still have to make sure you're taking note of what you did wrong and do it right the next time, though. But,
trust me, I know.
I know. Stat away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think the other thing
you're talking about just the deck itself.
Yeah.
And on top of it, the other thing I've been recording that I feel has been helpful for me is also being brutally honest about how much I can take away from the quality of their starting hand. Like if I see them mulligan all of their cards and nothing comes out in the first few turns, I make a note of, well, I had a bad starting hand, but so did they. Or I'll do something like that. Where,
I mean, I guess it sort of comes down to the more information you do record about pretty much everything beyond the win and loss probably is helpful.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, more information isn't going to hurt you.
Yeah, win and loss is like at the very base level. That's the starter. That is still good to record. You can at least, at the very least, look like you can get your class matchup information. You can look and say, okay, my worst matchup is against Priest, or my worst matchup is against Warrior. That's the beginning of. I finally have some concrete information to look at, so you can make an educated decision. But anything you want to do beyond that will certainly help you, as long as you're being honest. If you just go, I just had a bad hand, but you don't make note of, well, did you play as best as you could? Did they also have a bad hand? Did you, at turn 5, did you actually have a chance to get back in the game? You need to be thinking of that stuff all the time.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you.
I agree. It's a very tricky thing, though, by the way. So just make sure that whatever you're doing works for you in your head, because your system might make sense to you, but not someone else. But that doesn't mean that it's bad, right? Like whatever makes sense to you is probably the best thing.
Yeah.
I think the daily, to be honest, just the daily switch after the 15, I think from the original thing, I think would work.
Yeah.
Quick follow up, because I know you got people waiting. I normally do movie podcast stuff, and I was wondering just if you had to pick one card out of Hearthstone that you'd want to see Blizzard make a movie out of, what would that be?
Oh, damn.
I was thinking about it, and I want Reno because I just want League of Explorers stuff.
Sure. League of Explorers, the movie? Yeah, I could get behind that.
Who doesn't want to watch Indiana Jones again, right? So, yeah.
For the first time.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I've heard about that, Josh.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Josh, we're going to fix that ASAP.
Well, as long as you don't start with Crystal Skull, you'll be fine.
That's literally the
and
one.
And don't end with it either. Just pretend it doesn't exist. That's probably best.
Oh, God, Jocelyn. Every time. It hurts. I feel physical pain right now. Sir Finley Merkelton. I want to know how that guy got his accent and safari hat.
Oh yeah, I bet he has a good life story. Basically, just anyone from League of Explorers, I think, would be great.
Yeah.
And that's because I think for just the reason that we've talked about before is like League of Explorers is the Hearthstone universe, right? Like it's not ripped straight from Warcraft. It's a new kind of idea on their part. So, I mean, I would either pick League of Explorers or a character from there, or possibly something from what they seem to potentially be doing with this next expansion. I want to see where all that gadgets and stuff, and maybe there's like some cool mob boss story in there to be told. So I think I'm reserving my answer till then, but it might be something from the new expansion.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, thank you, Matthew.
I want Tinkmaster Overspark and Leroy Jenkins stoner buddy comedy. That's what I want.
That's great.
I like
Cheech and Chong, but with a gnome and a human.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
That's
all right, man. Have a good one.
That's so good. I love the idea of a paladin who is a stoner. Like, for the light, but after I blaze one up.
Leroy, let's be honest, he is a stoner, right? His character, he's the guy who charges in when he's not supposed to. And then, I got chicken though, so I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, Colin. Okay, looks like Jack is busy. Who is next?
Esconde in the chat room says that we need a Goldshire Footman movie just for Dills.
Oh crap! A horror movie, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Angry Chicken Fanboy, what say you?
I have a question about playing on intuition compared to playing on math. Like, what do you feel is the best? Do you just play on math like every time? What is the best mathematical play, or do you play on intuition?
Oh, like following your gut.
Yeah. I'll tell you this: I probably play on intuition much more than I play on math for sure. I kind of know what the best play is, or at least I think I do, and I just kind of do it for the most part. It's only when a really interesting and new situation arises when I start to sit and crunch numbers, right? Count up what my lethal might be. Can I set up a lethal? Can they set up a lethal? What type of situation could I put myself in if I do this compared to this? That's the only time I do that is when it gets to kind of maybe a pivotal moment. But for the most part, I'd say in games, I'm just kind of basing it on how the game has kind of felt like it's going and how I feel like my opponent plays, and just this feels like the right move to me more often than definitely the analytical side. I'm no life coach or Tice or a Firebat where I sit there and crunch the numbers every single turn.
Yeah,
but that's probably the best way to play. It's just not how I do.
I'm kind of the same way as you, Dills. I feel like I break out my calculator and start figuring out how many turns I can reach lethal at when my opponent and I reach parity. Like if we're it's turn 6, 7, we're moving into the late game, and it feels like we're both kind of out of answers, and both of us have kind of grown the board, and it's like, well, shoot, I just need to end this before he draws into his answer. That's when I bust out the calculator, and it's like, well, if I do this much damage this turn, how many turns until I can actually kill him?
What about you, Jocelyn? You're always doing the math, right?
Never. Never, ever. I am the worst at counting like how many cards he has left and how many things I've seen. Like I can generally I remember the big important swing cards, but then I'm just like, okay, he no longer has that answer, so I can play this and we're good to go. I'm a play from the gut player for sure, but I agree that mathematically is the next level competitive way to play. But I play from the gut for sure.
Yeah. How about yourself?
I think it often feels more comfortable just playing from the gut compared to playing from the math side. Do you have
I agree with that too. It's more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I hear Dill say, I think more than anything, is you have to force him to have it. Force him to have it. Like, does he have it? Because at a certain point.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It's a really greedy way to play.
Here's like the math. Here's most of the math decisions that I do end up making is like, let's say I've identified I'm playing against like a Reno deck, right? If I'm going to say push a bunch of damage, it's better if I do it early because it's the least chance he's going to have Reno in his hand, right? He's gone 13 cards into his deck. That means 1 out of the 13 has to be Reno, or 1 out of 17 could be Reno. Like it's more likely that it's in the 1 out of 17, right? Mm-hmm. So unless I can like play by a read based on what he's doing, oh, he wouldn't do this if he didn't have Reno in his hand, that type of thing. But that's really where like for me math comes in, is just probabilities on whether I think a player has a card in hand or not, more often than anything else. Most of the math in Hearthstone for me is just, 6 + 3 is 9. Okay. He's dead. Like that, you know what I mean? Like I don't do, like Firebat will talk about, if I had made this play, I was 28% to win, but if I had made this play, I was 36% to win. That type of stuff goes like far beyond anything I even want to do.
Yes.
Because I just want to have fun. And then the math part to me, maybe if I was trying to be in BlizzCon, okay, I might sit down and start crunching numbers like that. But most of the time to me, it's will I win like more than half the time or less than half the time if I do this play? That's enough for me, right? Let's take 50-50 and let's put me on the right side of that. So
yeah.
Oh, well said.
Well, that was all what I had.
Well, thanks for calling in, so-called Angry Chicken Fanboy. I don't think that's the name your mother gave you.
Wouldn't it be funny if it was?
Sorry, what was that?
Just saying I was not sure.
All right, have a good one, man. Thanks
for calling.
We actually had a question in the comments of our Patreon. Ian G wrote in and asked what our favorite card back overall for the Year of the Kraken has been.
Ooh. To be honest, like
year?
Yeah,
the test was my favorite card back, but
no, just from the Year of the Kraken. I have to look them up because I don't want to forget one.
I know.
I'm using the Toronto one personally. I love that one, but I don't know if that counts.
The Toronto. It happened during this year. It counts.
I guess, but it's not one of the monthly rewards.
I mean, you're getting technical. I'm going to choose to read this in the way that it is of this year because it just makes it easier. I think my favorite is Tiny Fin Beach.
Ooh, that was a good one.
There
was also there was the Valentine one. I liked that one too. But
Valentine one. What did that
so girly.
Oh,
my God.
Yeah, it looked like a gingerbread Valentine. Like I want to eat it.
Yeah.
Like I want some of that frosting.
So sparkly.
There's been a lot of tasty looking cards this year, like the pie, which I don't think actually is available yet.
Yeah, no, I think the pie is from this one. I kind of like the BlizzCon one from this year too, with the like swingy open tavern doors.
Oh, that one is cool.
Yeah.
I also really like the Legion one. That was what was that, last season?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, because it was the launch of Legion.
Or it looks like it was September. So there you go. Legion one was really, really cool. But I'm an Illidan fanboy. But I stick with Tiny Fin Beach. I love beaches. I love sand, and that has both. So.
Ooh, the Karazhan card back. Oh, I forgot about that one.
Well, Karazhan Knights or Medivh's Invitation?
The one that you got for, was it pre-ordering or?
For purchasing all wings of One Night in Canada. Yeah, that was the one with the disco ball. That was Karazhan Knights. Yeah,
Karazhan Knights. Yeah, the one with the disco ball. Yeah, okay,
yeah.
That's my final answer because that's the blue and purple made for Jocelyn cards. So that's my final answer.
Awesome, Dills.
Honestly, I'm not like a card back fanboy. I don't really even remember what was there or not. Like, I put the test book card back on and then I say go. My favorite one for me, I got the Legend card back this year, so there you go. And Year of the Kraken, I finally
Good answer.
I literally can't even remember like what card backs came out because I don't use any of them. Like it happens at the end of the month, and I'm paying more attention to what gold cards I got.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. The having the card back pop out at the same time as the gold cards has definitely drawn the attention away from the card back. I almost liked it better when it just like popped up on your screen and it was like you earned this card back this month as opposed to when it pops out of the chest because it's overshadowed for sure.
Yeah, it should be its own thing, right?
Yeah.
Rather than part of that set of rewards.
Well, Cheesy Bob has joined the call on what looks like FaceTime in a suspended chair.
Yeah, I'm hanging by a cable here.
Pretty
I can
sweet.
Spin around.
Man, I want to start podcasting like that.
Dude, I want one of those for my deck, man.
When I move,
we're doing it wrong.
I'm just going to set up an outdoor studio. That'll be a blast. And the humidity will murder all my electronics.
I have my Halloween tie-dye on, too.
You have more tie-dyes than any man I know. Anyways, man, what you want to talk about?
I was listening to the show yesterday, and you were talking about the Murloc change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's sort of interesting hearing the people complain about that. It's exactly the same thing that happened with slivers in Magic the Gathering.
Yes, you're right.
Where people and it's funny to me how like they're like making some of the same like mistakes and then changes. And the funny thing is that the arguments for some of the changes in Magic that don't apply as much to Hearthstone is that people playing the cards wrong. Because like you can't play a Hearthstone card wrong because you misread it because it'll just do the right thing, or the right thing as far as the game is concerned.
Sure, yeah.
Like so, for instance, the thing that they said is that everyone when they played Slivers always played it as if it was only their own.
Yeah, and they forgot about the other ones. You would do that in Hearthstone sometimes, but it always gets caught, right? Like the other guy doesn't.
Right. Well.
Yeah. The other guy has to notice.
Like you'll play it wrong once. And then you'd be like, "Oh, that's not what I expected." Oops.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like so, I have in my EDH deck, I have this card. I play like a Prosh deck. I have this card where
you play. Are you talking about Magic?
I'm talking about Magic, yeah.
Okay, I was like, what are these terms that you're using?
You can tap it to deal damage to something, and then it untaps if something dies, right? And then so you can then retap it and deal another damage, right? So let's say you're killing a bunch of 1/1s with it. You can just literally like fireball, like it's like you machine gun them all down, right? But then I also have mechanics in my deck where I can sacrifice my own creatures to do other things. And when I have that little guy on the board, I should always remember while I'm sacking those creatures, I should also be like dealing 1 damage to something, right? And I always forget to do it. Like I always forget. And I'm like, man, I just missed like 8 damage. And in Hearthstone, yeah, you're right. Like that would never happen because it would just do it, right? As soon as you killed something, it would go, okay, deal damage. And that type of stuff, doesn't happen. And I think the Murloc changes might maybe be part of like that idea that people didn't know how the hell this was supposed to work, and then they got confused. Like it might have been confusing for players that one creature type does all, and then all the other ones do mine, right?
Yeah, it is more consistent with the way other things work, like beast buffs, for example. And I also said yesterday the age-old, well, it could also, there could be more Murlocs coming down the pipe, and they might this might just be very problematic to creating new Murlocs.
Yeah, the other thing that is, one of those sort of weird interactions things that really annoyed me is that I got the Beasts quest to play a bunch of beasts, and Beast a Druid actually sucks for that quest because all your beasts aren't beasts when you play them.
Oh yeah.
Oh crap!
Oh, you're right.
And then they become a beast. Yeah.
I think the
Oh.
Raven might be the only one that's like a beast when it's played.
Yeah, you're right.
The
unless
four,
you're-
the 4-drop, the 5/4 that makes your hero power do 2 more damage. That's a beast when you play it, but that's not even.
Yeah, so like I
in
played
deck all
one
the
game as Beast Druid, and I played a bunch of minions, and then I only got 3 points of the quest. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll try mid-range hunter.
I wouldn't be surprised if they change that in the future.
I did the same thing too because I got the enrage one, and then I was playing like frothing berserkers. I'm like, oh, they don't say enrage. They just get
There's
bigger.
not that many enraged creatures.
No,
in the
there
game,
isn't.
actually.
Yeah,
The
they're
angry
all
chicken
suck,
is
dude.
an enrage.
Yeah, well, okay.
Guess I'm playing
that's
priest.
how I did mine. Is I made a literal all enraged deck with angry chickens, and then put it in. Although it's kind of funny because angry chicken doesn't work in warrior at all.
No,
like there's
not at
nothing
all.
that warrior
You
can do to
won't
buff
win
it.
when dies. Yeah. Although technically it does enrage before it dies, but
You
Yeah,
could
there's
you could give it Defender of Argus as a neutral.
you'd have to
option there.
defend it, but like you can't even rampage it because it's dead before it's damaged. You know. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
Defender
think-
is kind of your only play, but no, you know what though? Like I wasn't on the show when you guys talked about the Murloc thing, but I
Right.
did read all of the comments where people said that it made the mirror match less interesting, right? And to that I say that didn't happen enough to be an issue for me, right? Like the mirror match didn't come up enough times that I care enough about making one matchup less interesting. What
Well, I think
I
that
care about
they-
is if it prevented them from making more Murlocs in the future.
I
Because
think they
then suddenly there are
specifically
more.
mentioned the mirror match though, and I think that's why people were talking about that because
Sure.
they said like to fix the mirror match. Basically, they made the change. So that was a thing that came from Hearthstone, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, but also it is a thing that happens where you play the mirror match out, and like let's say I anyfin and it doesn't kill you, then the other guy anyfins and gets buffed by your war
Yeah.
leader, right? But like to me, it's not a big enough deal. But what is a big deal is if they were playing to make a bunch of Murlocs and realized they couldn't, because suddenly the mirror match will then start to happen all the time. And it's not going to just be about anyfin; it'll be about playing Murlocs throughout a game, right?
Mhm.
Because think about back in the day, the Murloc deck back in the day was Warlock, right? And you would basically just play Murlocs throughout the game. And if you went up against a mirror match there, it got really interesting because you would have to kill things before you say play your own war leader, right?
Mhm.
And that probably matters more if we do say like get a bunch of good Murlocs and a Murloc deck is a real thing again. So I'm guessing that it probably has something to do with that. And I will sacrifice one weird matchup that happens every now and then being slightly less interesting to get like some cool new cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm totally fine with it. And again, it's one of those sort of things where, I always find it bizarre when they make a decision that Magic has gone the other way with, and they went with the way that Magic did it originally, and then they end up changing it. It's like, yeah, there's a reason. Like the Magic game designers are really smart.
Oh yeah.
And they have 20 years of experience to pull
Mhm.
off of. And, and there's definitely sometimes when there's obvious, decisions they've made that flow from it. But sometimes, like, you can see the decision they made and you're doing the other version of it. Why? Like,
Yeah, but didn't
I'm with you, man.
in their defense, didn't the sliver change come after Hearthstone's launch?
yes, but they had already done the change for lords, right? Because the original lords were, give +1/+1 to all goblins or all merfolk.
Mm-hmm.
And they had since changed it back, and the reason it took them a long time to do new slivers was because there was actually a lot of internal discussion about, well, it feels like this iconic sliver thing of like sometimes you buff your opponent's slivers, but the way we do lords is it's now only your own stuff. And so, but then they finally did it and people were really upset. But I mean, honestly, it was one of those things like it doesn't come up very often, and it's sort of, there's this it's the sort of design aesthetic to basically try to make stuff happen how you would expect. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I
that
think that's
one,
the key there too. Like Magic got it right because it's a game where people have to pay attention, right? So it just makes turns like more complex than they really need to be, right? Where you need to be paying attention to like, oh, I have all the slivers and you have all the slivers and let's figure out what they all add up to now. And it just gets like you just get bogged down in the details. Where in Hearthstone that doesn't really matter, but what does matter is that when you read the card, you can quickly understand how the card works, and then you can get out there and start playing with it right away rather than being like, oh god, wait, what? Like this works this way? And I know they want discovery to a certain extent, but not to the point where you don't understand why anything is going on, right? Why things are happening the way they are.
Yeah, and there's some stuff in Hearthstone that I think really could be improved with regard to that, because there's certain mechanics where it's like the whole that whole thing a while back of like the order of like Death Rattle and
battle cries and
Battle Cry and Death Rattle,
yeah.
and it's just like, and it's like, and I think one of the things is that with Magic they try and clear that up because like they have to, like players have to read the card and understand how it works, and so when a player reads the card and then plays it wrong, like they do a bunch of play tests, right? Where they'll watch people read a card and play it wrong. Like the classic one is the Llanowar Elves who tap to add a green mana, and people will tap and then search their library for a forest and put it into play. Right, so and it's just something where the text on the card doesn't really explain to you. That's there's not really a good way around it in Magic, but there's a lot of things they've changed where, well, everyone's playing it this way, so let's just make it actually work that way.
Sure.
And I think that, it's an interesting thing where Hearthstone doesn't actually have a very good vector for that, because like you play a card and then it doesn't do what you expect, but there's not a way to say, hey, what the F? Why'd that even happen?
Well, what happens?
There's no way to measure.
Naturally,
Yeah.
Yeah. What we do naturally, though, is we just accept, right? We accept a lot. We go, oh, okay, I guess it works that way. And, if you don't do a podcast about it, you don't bring it up to anybody later because you're not talking about it. Like, so we get together and we go, like, why the hell is it killing my Dr. Boom when I play, like, the Boom bots come out after Dr. Boom, right? All this stuff.
It was Sacred Trial was the one.
Yeah.
Sacred Trial, that killed your Dr. Boom instead of one of the Boom bots. But in a lot of cases in Hearthstone, what happens is, you see it happen the way it happens, and you go, okay, I guess that's how it works, and then we just all move on.
Yeah.
But what kind of people get bogged down is when they read the card and then it works some way totally unexpected to them. Then people get a little bit freaked out and pissy. But they also in the last change, they changed the Murlocs and they changed the new Rogue card.
Mm-hmm.
So like they changed the wording on that so that it kind of described the situation a little bit more clearly. So I think they are concentrating more on this stuff, like just making sure that the text reads the way it's supposed to, or the way that it would make sense to the player, which is good.
Yeah, no, definitely it is a thing that it's always annoying when you do a thing and you expect one thing to happen and then something completely different happens and you're like, oh, that feels bad.
At least it only feels bad once, and then you learn, hopefully.
Well, or you forget and then do it again. Like the thing I always get wrong is the order of Sylvanas. Right, like which Sylvanas steals the other one if they both survive, or if they both die. Like, and there's only one minion. Like, I think it's like it's Sylvanas into Brawl is the one where it's like I think it's the Sylvanas that played ladder wins. So if you played your Sylvanas after they played their Sylvanas and then you Brawl, you're the one who ends up with the last creature.
Yes,
I think.
Yes, you are. I believe you are correct.
I think I've failed at that like 4 times, and now I finally have it memorized.
It depends. Like if you both played Sylvanas, the one guy who played his first goes off first. But if yours, never mind.
Right, if you're
bogged down, we're gonna get bogged
yeah,
down.
we're so bogged down. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry.
Are there 2 Sylvanases?
Yeah, one goes off first, the other goes off second.
Yeah.
All right. That's all you need to know. He's just going crazy back here, so I was a little bit distracted.
Yeah, but no, I agree with all
right.
of the points you made, Cheesy Bob. Thank you for calling in and giving us our dose of magic.
Yeah, well, I'm I don't play it anymore, but I used to, so it's always in my brain. I still like follow the game. I just don't play it.
Yeah.
It's like riding a bike, dude. Once you're a Magic player, it's always a Magic player.
All right.
Have a good one.
Thanks
Joe.
a lot for calling.
Well, thank you everyone for calling in. That brings us to the end of this Patron Hangout. Hope to see many of you at BlizzCon. We will be doing one more episode before that, but just a reminder, our meetup will be at the Bullmore Bowling Alley the night before BlizzCon, the Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, or not Eastern, 9 p.m. local time. So when you get off the
9
plane...
9 p.m. Eastern to be super early.
Yes. Well... Yes, you're right. It would. No, 9 p.m. local time. The Bowmore Lane is inside the Garden Walk Mall. It's right around the corner from the convention center. So hope to see many of you there. Details are over at emove.tv right now. I finally got off my butt and posted it because so many people were asking, "What is it?" It's like the same as last year. Well, where is it? And I was like, okay, I'll make a post. I've been busy. I'm sorry. So. Anyways, thanks again to everyone who called in. Huge thanks to our patrons over at patreon.com/TAC. You guys are the whole reason we do these extra episodes each month and all the other extra content, including Taco and Brawl episodes and all that jazz. So thank you all. Dills, where can folks find you?
You can check me out on Twitter at Willie Dills. Check out twitch.tv/WillieDillsSF and YouTube.com/WillieDillsSF as well. We are over 600 subs now, so lots and lots of new emotes and cool stuff going on. So please, I will be streaming every day until BlizzCon, and then I won't be streaming for like another week and a half. So try to check. Yeah, come and join me for all those streams from here until then.
Awesome. Jocelyn, how about yourself?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays. You can tune in at 8 p.m. tonight for the Gamers In. That's twitch.tv/AMoveTV. And that's pretty much it.
Nice. Well, you can find me on Twitter at Garrett Art. Everything else is on amove.tv. Check out Embrace the Spoilers with Jocelyn and I spoiling Westworld. Go check that out.
It's so good.
Until next we meet, job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.
Yes. 3 for a loop there, didn't I? All right.
You totally did.
Well played, sir.
Iggy, do you need to go outside, dude? Yeah, you do.
I'm a dog. I need to poop. Or pee. Or both.
He just needs to run around in the hot Texas sun for a little while, and then he'll just go right to bed.
Just need to burn out some
All right,
energy.
I'm going to go do that before I stream. So I will talk to you good people soon.
See ya.
Peace.
Bye, guys.